Welcome back to FutureFast. And today we have a very special guest who's also an author. And before I introduce you to the book and the author, he's Deepak Ghadge. His co-author is not with us, but Deepak will fill us in about him as well. But before I get on to Deepak, very quickly, for those of you who have come in for the first time, FutureFast is an effort to bring in people who are doing things that are effectively changing the way the future will be, and also possibly working towards changing the future that they visualize in the way they think it should be. And idea is that we bring these conversations in, and perhaps we will be able to take some thoughts, some tips, whatever that we could potentially use it in our own businesses or the work that we are doing, and see how do we prepare better for the future. And of course, it is not an effort to scare anybody. There may be some things when we talk, and some people may tend to give uh, uh, the way they see the future to be, and which may not be very positive. But the whole idea is not to be scaring anybody, but just to prepare with this whole effort. Having said that, hope you'll enjoy the ride from a point of conversation that we're going to have with Deepak. Deepak is an entrepreneur. Deepak is a blockchain expert. He's been in the blockchain space for quite some time. And today, we will, while we also dig into what Deepak is busy with currently, we will get started with his first author effort, right, Deepak?
Yeah. That's the first book on
So
entrepreneurship. Yeah.
wonderful. Congratulations on having put in such a good effort. And Deepak, the title is very good. So, how did you arrive at it?
See, it's a natural process. If you look at the title itself, it says Dhool Dhoop Dhakka. And that was the English title, and then we were trying to find a subtitle. We found the subtitle through the book itself. It was our journey. See, I was in entrepreneurship development training program, Government of India, for 2 days. And our mentor, Mr. Ravi Gupta, was always mentoring, talking about the MSME sector, the loans and opportunities and all the processes. And during one of the break sessions, he said, don't expect that after you finish this program and take the certificate, banks will welcome you and garland you and give you all the money what you want. So जब तक आप धूल धूप धक्का इस जर्नी से नहीं गुजरोगे तब तक आपको कामयाबी नहीं मिलेगी. That's what he said. And that day I said, if I write a book ever on entrepreneurship, this should be the title. Now let's relate to what it means in enterprise side. So Dhool is basically dirtying your hands. Means in Kannada we say kai
Dust.
kesaradre vai
Why
musaru,
must?
right? So
Correct.
it is like understanding every business function. If you're an entrepreneur, you should know every function. You should know the metrics of every function. That is when you will be able to measure the resources, whether it's a human resource or the materials which you are using, and keep a metrics of measurement for it. Then Dhoop is going into the ecosystem. In the it's a seasonal change for many businesses. It is also the weather changes, and some of the markets are seasonal, and you should know what season is good for you and how is the ecosystem, especially your competition, your products, your customers, your lenders, investors. It's the entire ecosystem where you come back and build the service or the product which is a wow factor for you. So that is your Dhoop process. Dhakka is a roller coaster ride. It is never going to be green. So it is never going to be stable. That curve is never going to be linear. It will be like this. And you need to go through that process to understand the challenges. And you need to, as an entrepreneur, I think uh, when we have gone through the COVID process, we have seen how we have to pivot faster. We have to be on our toes when something like a COVID hits us, and how do we have survival instincts? Because people who reacted later probably are still struggling. People who reacted faster, who pivoted, who knew, who can understand. So this can come anytime. This can come in terms of a flooding, it can come in terms of a war, it can come in any time, any competition can come and wipe you out, right? So you have to be there to pivot it. Now the interesting part was we were trying to find what should be the subtitle. So
Right.
we had an architect who is into innovative housing, basically wooden housing for sustainable buildings and and building a good ecosystem where you can save the environment. And he said entrepreneurship is by design. So we just captured that words and we said we are going to use this as a subtitle. Now, if you look at the entire process, Dhool Dhoop Dhakka is the process which designs your entrepreneurial success. It's a
Perfect.
template for every successful entrepreneur. You ask anybody in the world, this is the process. You
Wonderful.
design your own
Wonderful.
success.
So basically, the title is Dhool Dhoop Dhakka. If I can do a verbatim translation, it should be dust, scorch, and push.
Yes.
So doesn't sound as good as Dhool Dhoop Dhakka sounds. But effectively, you already explained it, what and why it is. But that's perfect. And uh, so with this, first is that why did you think there was a need for another book on one, of course, entrepreneurship by design, from a point of encouraging entrepreneurs to pick up some stories, entrepreneurial journeys that could help them in building their own stories by reading other stories. But there are hundreds of such stories, right? Why did you think that there is a need for you to do something now?
So this was during 2019, August 15th. Me and my co-author Arun Lal were attending a session in Mumbai, in Saharashtra. That is when I was also in my healthcare entrepreneurship. I was going through my own journey there. And while we were attending this session, one of the speakers said, we have written a book and we have been able to write stories about some of the entrepreneurs and we have learned some of the lessons from them. Then I kind of said to Arun saying that we should also write a book and how's this idea? So he said, okay, it probably didn't take it seriously, but then I persisted and then because I was in that entrepreneurial journey, because I was the first time entrepreneur, I was not from a business family. I wanted to understand what it takes to become a successful entrepreneur. So I took this route because the best way to learn from anybody is to understanding their stories, talking to them, what was their journey. And during this process, for me, believe me, I have learned so much from these 12 stories. And wherever today I go, I live and breathe Dhool Dhoop Dhakka process. So that is why the whole process was to get mentored by these 12 stories by themselves because it is not easy to find these great stories. And most of the stories are never written or you are on mute actually.
You took up a challenge to write this book, and it was actually a process of learning as well from all these people.
Yeah. So basically, that is what happened. And I could go through each of the stories, learn from what they went through. And it is never, see, what we see is always looks bright and green, and we always see the success part of it.
Right.
What made them to reach there is a journey. And again, that whole title tells you it's a journey. It is not something which you will be gifted or you will be blessed with. You, anybody, whether even if you are coming from a rich family today, you have to go through that process to make it successful. See, it
But a
doesn't.
lot of traditional business owners, right? These are not the typical ventures, even to the extent of being identified as a startup or a
Yeah.
unicorn,
Mm.
the tech association. Yes, there is tech company as well in your
There are, see,
set.
it's a combination. For me, I did not plan what should be the collection of these stories. Okay.
So how did it happen then?
it just fell into my lap, one after another, one after another. But then the end of it, when I looked at the 12 stories, how it fell together, I had startups, I had a family business, I had a franchisee business, I had a mature business. Now, if you look at all the books which are there in the market, either it is IIT, IIM startup books, or it is the mature books like Book to Great. And this is one book which has got everything. And that is the difference. And these are very, very conventional businesses, traditional businesses. Some of them even not even raised a investment or a loan, and they've been profitable. We today talk about valuation, profitability, and funding, and all those things, right? There are
It's
businesses.
completely bootstrapped and
Yeah,
no external investors.
no external investment. The way they have gone to the marketing is very, very basic grassroots level marketing, as simple as painting on the walls of the street of a city and bringing customers to the store and demanding
We'll
for the products.
we'll
Yeah.
jump into that. So why did you pick 12? Why not 10 or why not 15? What?
No,
Ah,
actually, I thought of 24.
oh, okay.
Then the numbers were too big because even reaching 12 and completing the
So
stories was a long journey for us.
is there a Dhool Dhoop Dhakka part 2 coming up then for the rest of the second set of 12 entrepreneurs
Yes,
journey?
I am planning, but I am keeping a capping now. I am keeping a capping of as a master class where these businesses should be above certain revenue, 3,000, 5,000 crore
So
plus.
you are
Maybe
now
they
trying
might
to
be
put
10
some framework
stories.
around it. Okay.
Yeah, now I want to look at, see, these are traditional stories, journey, what happened. Now I want to show the data behind it of a company which has reached to a certain extent, and then what happened, what is the inflection happened, what did they change in that for them to grow up to scale. And I want to do research and then go to the market and talk to
Fantastic.
these people. So that book will be very different than this. And this is some feedback which I received, but that is why I've kept it as a benchmark. I will reach out to companies above 3,000 crores plus, and then look at the journey. And that too will come. That is for sure.
Wonderful. And what was the starting point? So from a point of where you telling your co-author Arun that we should also write a book, but when did you actually get down to start and what was that trigger?
I actually took it seriously. Then I started listing down all the people whom I knew and then whom we know in the media, whom we can reach out and how we can reach out. And then Arjun was a good friend of mine, and then we kind of reached out and not knowing whether they will agree or not, we just gave it a stab. And then Arjun gave us the nod saying that, yeah, it looks interesting and I would be ready. And since it was a bigger story for us also to start, and then
That's
we had to
the
prepare ourselves.
that's the sixth chapter, just for the audience.
Yeah. So they are the world's largest in terms of their industry, the incense and perfumery industry. It's a great story for family business and family transition.
It was
And for
started by
us, it
what?
was
His
a lot of
grandfather,
learning.
right?
Grandfather, yeah. His grandfather started soon after independence in 1948. And there are so many lessons to learn from this one story itself, where if you can just follow the simplicity and the transition part and the innovation part, they've done everything right at the right time. Even going to international markets, it has all been thought through very, very, very carefully. And today, reaching out people internationally is easy because you have technology. In those days, there was nothing. And having that idea sown into the business and growing to that extent, today there are 75 countries as a market. That itself is a very, very, very heartening story to understand what it takes to become an entrepreneur. And generations have to be successful to go on a ride. It's a third generation which is currently running, and probably the fourth generation is coming up very soon. To family businesses to sustain for transitioning, I think they just need to copy paste their template.
Yeah, I think
So this was the starting point here.
Okay. And so obviously you started with this story, but this is listed as a sixth chapter. So what made you relook at what should be the order of the
No, that
presentation?
was nothing. We did not put anything like this should be first, second. While we were designing the chapters, we were trying to work it out what order should be there. And then by default, Anil Foods fell into the first chapter. It was nothing we planned it that it should be this one, that one. And we wanted to keep stories in between also, which are interesting. So though every story is interesting, we wanted to make those interesting stories somewhere in between. We have two, three stories which are also starting in the middle of the book. So that while
Right.
a reader is reading, so they get excited to read the next chapter, next. And we have kept one story at the last. It's a farmer story. Because
Hmm.
today, farmer is actually an entrepreneur, true entrepreneur, right? Because they take all kinds of risks, the maximum risk. And we have never treated farmer as an entrepreneur. He's always been treated as a farmer, as a vote banker for election politics. But if you look at a true entrepreneurial spirit, they are the entrepreneurs. And we were very excited and very humbled to know the journey of this person. How from a person from nothing, not even owning a single inch of a land, could go and make whatever his story is today. He's an icon for anybody who can
Oh,
take a risk.
actually, you brought a very interesting comment, observation. It's we so many times we tend to look at farmer as a uh, uh, more of a not-for-profit farming as a not-for-profit effort, whereas the reality is the farmer is in true sense a capitalist, right? He is very much an entrepreneur, and in India context, 60% plus jobs are in the agriculture space. So by virtue of that, farmers are essentially the largest employers also, are farmers and overall agriculture space. So yeah, it's a very interesting.
See, also look at it, the kinds of natural calamities they face and whatever they invest. And if there is a heavy rain, they lose it. If it's a flood, they lose it. And if it is no rains, also they will lose it. Optimum is never there actually to survive against all
True.
this.
I think
Yeah.
much of Indian farming
Mm.
community or mechanization is not as much.
Yes.
Automation is still far from it. And also, though 60% of job dependency are on agriculture, the contribution to GDP is less than 19%. So, so there are both macro and micro problems associated with the true. So I just want to pull you back into Arjun Ranga's story on cycle pure Garbatis. So what is the size of that group? Any idea on that? Because there is no reference to any size in the story that you've written, right?
See, they are today 1,500 crores
Okay.
in terms of revenue. And in terms
That is
of
only their
yeah,
incense
the NR,
sticks perfumery
yes,
business or the overall group?
the group business.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Incense is the largest one from the group, and I think 1,500 crores plus the is largely part of the incense and perfumery business,
Hmm.
and they are present in 75 countries. That's the other aspect of the group, and they have been innovative in every aspect of their journey, and they have automated the making of incense sticks. I think they churn out some billions of incense sticks in a year. Billions.
Hmm.
That's the volume. I don't know the exact number. It's probably 8 or 10 billion incense sticks is what they manufacture in a year.
And you already said the biggest takeaway from this story is how a continuity in a family business is better. That's the key
Yes.
takeaway from the story.
Yes. See, again, the father, the son, and the grandchildren were all part of the whole journey. And while the grandfather started working, setting it up, he had 8 children, and all the children went and supported the father. And some of them took their own professional work. There was never pressure that all the children have to be part of it. People who were good at academics, everybody were good at academics. Partially, people followed academics and they followed profession. Others came into the business, they supported the father and they scaled up. And now the grandchildren were also part of it because they used to go to the industry or the manufacturing unit on weekends, and they could also support what their parents and grandparents were doing it. So it was a close-knit family which was built around that whole journey. And the grandchildren also, though they were educated outside India, they had all the options to work in some of the top companies in the world. They had their own choice. They could come back or they could not come back also. There's no pressure, but they felt that their belonging and their responsibilities back home. And in a tier 3 city like Mysore, to grow a company
Tier
which is
2.
world tier 2 now, and then scale it up to world number 1 in that industry is a great journey. And the transition has happened from the father to the children, and from their children to the grandchildren at the right point in time to the right person also.
Right.
And it is
And
not just
pretty much
handed.
every Indian across India would know Cycle Agarbatti,
Yes,
right?
and the simplicity of that name is also was chosen because so anybody now wants to name a company or a brand. This is one lesson they should learn. Cycle is pronounced cycle across all languages across the world. The brand recall is much easier. That was the simple thought saying that we will name this as a cycle brand.
Interesting. Wonderful. I think this surely makes a good reading. And Anil Foods, that was your first story, at least in the book, the first
Yes.
one.
Yeah.
So, what's happening there? What's the takeaway? Single takeaway, if you have to put it. There may
Single
be
takeaway.
multiple, which we'll urge our audience to pick up the book and read it. The link is there below the podcast. But uh, maybe you could give out one single takeaway so that the rest they will try to find it out of the book.
See, Anil
Not
Foods.
necessarily single takeaway, one takeaway.
Yeah, see, Anil Foods, the story is the founder did not even know how to manufacture vermicelli. So when you are put in a situation like that, so you have to dirty your hands, know the art of manufacturing and marketing that whole thing. And they innovated the first version of roasting the vermicelli. They were innovative in their own. They were not IITs or IISc scientists. Okay, they simply roasted the vermicelli for a long shelf life. And this is
I'm not sure. See, I think most of us in South India will know Anil Foods.
yes.
What about North? Is it there in North India as well? I'm just curious because.
No, they have restricted themselves to South and the
Okay.
Southeast Asian countries where the Indian population is there. But
Right.
they have aspirations to become 1,000 crore plus to go to an IPO. They have
Okay.
now professionalized the board so that they can reach that version. The single thing which the father told the sons is be honest to whomever, whether it's a distributor or a client or an employee. If you have promised or given a word to somebody, stick to that word and make sure whatever it takes and deliver it. And do not
Wow.
do not ignore the word which you have given. So,
Wonderful. I think I want to jump to how do you even pick someone in the steelwork kind of a business? Why did you think of bringing a story like that of Mayur Bua, laser cut steelwork?
see, Mayur is kind of a maverick entrepreneur. For people who want to start up and then we go through a long list of selections and then we choose some of those businesses. Like when I started healthcare, I and my co-founder were every year, every 6 months, we were coming up with the idea. We were just passing it on. We never jumped into it. For Mayur, he was doing very well in his career as a salesperson into marketing sales because he worked in big brands. There's nothing which was, as far as money is concerned, was not a problem at all. Thing is, he just one day decided to quit and said, I want to start something. And without knowing what he wanted to start. But his only focus was he does not have to go back to corporate. He's left his corporate job and there was no backup. He just left the backup because he said, if I have that backup, I will always be inclined to that backup. He said, I am jumping in. I don't know what I'm jumping in, but I'm going to stick to it. And he did not have any global steel business. Then he learned, he invested, they put their jewelry, everything, even the parents were not, though they are a Gujarati family, they were all teachers, professionals. They were not a business family. But
and also very typical middle class
family. That persistency for Mayur, 4 years, I think he did not even go and watch a movie. After they were profitable, only then he went with his family to a movie. That is the discipline which he followed. So people, whenever profits come, he reinvested to procuring a new machine or expanding the unit, though he had a smaller team, but he did not spend just for the reason he had money. He made sure they are profitable. The day they were profitable, he went and watched them.
And another thing is that most of these guys that you chose are between, it's safe to say, between 30 and 50.
Yes, all are young population.
Yeah. So was it also deliberate?
No. I think we did not plan. The first version, we never planned anything.
Like you said, it just fell in place.
Just fell in lap. Mayur imported the largest machine during COVID when many of them were trying to save money. And he knew the market is going to expand. And that is real entrepreneurship. You know what you're doing.
Right. And zipline, I think every time we talk, that is one you keep mentioning. So is that your favorite in the whole list?
Yeah, it is my best and favorite story because it's an international story. It is not an Indian story, it is an international story. The founders are from Harvard. And the way I met them is also an accident. I was in my startup co-working space, and then some of the team members had come and they were talking about ambulance medicine and blood and all those things. Since I was into emergency services like ambulance, healthcare, I was the only guy in that whole co-working space. Then I was thinking, who can speak this language? I was little interested, and I was able to. They were so loud that I could overhear what they were saying. And they had just come for a day. Then when I walked out, I just asked the reception, who are these guys? They said it is Zipline. So then I dropped an email saying that I saw their website. I dropped an email. Then I said, this is what I'm doing. They're pretty much impressed what we were doing. They wanted to collaborate. And then finally, when the book was happening, then I asked, I want to write about you. And they gave a nod to that. Why it is important is emergency services, not many of us understand. And also the location where you start is also very important. Today, if you look at blood and medicine, Africa used to get a large supply, and most of the supplies were getting expired and they were throwing it because supply was coming from all over the world, but it was not distributed at the right time because of infrastructure issues, because of all
the warehouse challenges that they have.
Roads. And it used to take 45 minutes to 2 hours to reach the correct person. Okay. And sometimes the person used to die because of lack of transport. And this is when these guys found a way to transport medicines using roads. And they did not choose US because they were a Harvard student. They could have gone to US government and they would have started there. They would have probably found all these politics and all the various regulations to start itself. They could have taken 3 years. They went to Africa, Rwanda. They said, this is what solution is. And Rwanda wanted that. And they would use that opportunity to scale that. And the best part is they have supplied medicine in 5 minutes, blood in 5 minutes. Rwanda had the highest maternal deaths, that is today zero.
So
And that is the story.
Ravanda is a fantastic success story,
Yes.
and uh, uh, their corruption levels were also like a very classic African story, and from there to such a level of accountability and openness, which is phenomenal. In fact, I met a someone who runs a sports business in India. He's also a Rwanda national team coach for basketball. So yeah, I interact with him quite regularly. So it's quite amazing journey that they are having. So,
See, the president told the founder when they launched Zipline in Rwanda, it is not this services which you are providing to our citizens. Because people did not even see, probably they saw aircraft flying around, but nobody saw a drone flying around. And the children who were sitting in the fence to see the launch and drop and all those things, he said, you are selling the dream to my children. Tomorrow's engineers are here. And today's Zipline has moved its production to Rwanda, from California to Rwanda, where they're manufacturing their own zips. It's a fantastic story because if you are into technology, this is what you should look at. And that's why I tell anywhere I go to any engineering college or any college, any youngsters, solve the real problem. And there are people to invest. And this is the real problem which they have solved. And today they are the world's largest logistics company and the fastest. In 5 minutes, you can't even expect having delivery to.
well, yeah, that's an awesome story. And they are looking at coming to India.
They had signed an MOU during pre-COVID. I think there have been some delays which is happening because probably
So permissions have been
permissions. I think the government is promoting Indian startups for drones, but they were the first ones to be called. They came to India on invitation. That is why they started operations, and that
right.
is how I met
No,
them.
but I think we clearly had a lot of infrastructural issues. See, unlike Rwanda, our population is huge, right? Rwanda is a country which is probably bigger than the size of Karnataka with a population less than the size of Bangalore.
No, it is as small as Goa. It's the Central African country.
Rwanda is a big country. I mean, the population is very small, but
no, even
geographically,
they are very small. They are not very big. It's a very tiny country in the
or
Central
even
Africa.
geographically they're small.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
okay, interesting. So, in your next story, I know a little bit about the next story, not from here. In fact, I had heard the founder Kumar Wale's conversation somewhere, Naturals thing. I was quite impressed that he named it because he always liked Naturals ice cream from Bombay. I was like, wow, you actually name your business uh,
For
from
some other
another.
product, yeah.
And apparently, what he said was that he reached out to this man, that Pai, Naturals ice cream, even seeking his franchise for Tamil Nadu.
Mm.
And at that point of time, he was not ready to do that. So, so he said, then, okay, I'm going to start with this. Whenever you are going to come out, you should consider giving franchise. That's what he told, and he started. He kept the same name, which was also in some sense relevant to his line of business. So, but today, uh, uh, he clearly created that confusion when you say naturals, which natural?
I think that's another great story because they entered a segment. See, their story starts with their father, and his father was the first person in the world to invent sachets. Just to for people to understand what was the background. While his father was traveling in an aircraft, those days the shampoo bottles were there, and one of the shampoo bottles broke,
He
and
had
then.
come as a guest talk for my class during my
Mhm.
IMB. He was
Okay.
there, so he told us that famous story of his sachet.
Yeah. So that is where people told, why don't you patent and these things? He said clearly, when world can use it, it is helping people. I don't want any innovation which will restrict the usage of that to the grassroots level. And that is where, if you look at it, they were nominated the top 10 innovations in the 80s, 90s in India, and also C.K. Prahalad that covered in his book From the
Correct,
Bottom of
on
the
the
Pyramid.
bottom of the pyramid also.
Yeah, so it's that is the background, and then his brothers are also very successful entrepreneurs in the shampoo business, right? C.K. Ranganathan is a much larger entrepreneur today. But Kumar Vel had an aspiration where he could have joined his brothers. But he said, I want to be independent. I don't want to be dependent on my business. Both husband and wife coming from a business background, they kind of were looking at what to start. They had a kindergarten, they had a salon business, and something else. Salon business is something which South Indian culture, if you look at it, not many people would go for it because it was considered as a taboo business, right? In the 2000, this is when the IT revolution started, right? And that is when the son was earning more than the father who started in the IT, and people had money in their pocket to spend. And these salons were not up to the mark if you look at it. They were all still you can see those old salons in Bangalore, South India. They changed the face of the salon, uplifted the whole business itself. And they renamed uh, the title also. People whom you called barbers, they called them hairstylist.
That sachet is not his father; it's his elder brother, right?
No, his father. Father started the sachet. The elder brother continued the business.
I thought his father started the shampoo business, but the son
Sachet.
brought
Sachet
in the
was
sachet thing. That C.K.
sachet was
Ranganath brought in the
his
sachet thing,
father
right?
started. His father innovated it. The sons continued to steal it.
Okay, okay. I always thought the father started the shampoo
Mm.
business, but son
No, what
brought in the.
happened is the father used to also do medicines. Used to distribute medicines. So where he used to collect bulk and then he used to put in small bottles. And that's the idea which came in. So why can't
But
I do sachet?
clearly, this is a very unique story where technically they are a family, but
Hmm.
it's not a family promoted business. He
No,
started from scratch. I mean, he
scratch.
did have a some background at least,
Yeah.
but uh, built a brand new, I mean, a totally new brand, and without riding on something like, without riding on the father's brand or anything of that sort. So,
So even with that background, to get a loan for expansion, they had to go to 52 banks, face rejection. 53rd bank gave them the loan. So
no,
now
that's
you,
why I meant as a almost like starting from scratch,
yes, yes.
in despite that kind of a background and.
Now you relate to the title, Dhool Dhoop Dhakka. That is the part of the journey. And he said, I had to face number of rejections. And for
Well,
me,
that is what, I kept wondering, Deepak, how did you choose each of these guys? And uh, uh, I mean, it fell in place very well.
yes, yes.
It was really nice to
See,
have
from
each of these kind of stories come together. And I know we are taking more time of you, but I want you to talk about more about A. Mahendran. He's another
Yeah,
amazing story.
I will just finish the last line for Kumar Vel.
Yeah,
Now,
please.
Kumar Vel is the master of franchisee scaling. They are the largest franchisee in salon business today. And
Mm.
today, that business is again pivoting, innovating. They moved into products after COVID, pre-COVID. And
No, the products they are coming up with, they are not the click product. They are coming up with
no,
their
no,
own
there's
products.
their own natural products.
So technically now brothers are
No,
becoming
no.
competitors to each
Yeah,
other.
yeah, yeah. They have 15 products of their own. And then they are scaling up, trying to reach 4,000 franchises stores
Mm, mm.
in India and abroad. So you can probably find
Oh, they have
something
gone outside of India as well.
outside of India, and they are also coming up with an Ayurvedic version of these salons. So
Wonderful.
outside India, the yoga and Ayurveda is getting promoted, and probably you will see the Ayush clinics outside India. So and for me, I call him as my elder brother, mentor, whatever you call. But for me, I call him the Talaiva of business, because he's like a his dialogue delivery is like any
It's like Rajnikant.
Rajnikant. Yeah.
Wonderful.
So now coming to Mahindran,
Oh,
Mahindran,
we
yeah.
have a very some percentage of audience who are outside of India
Mm.
and not necessarily who are very familiar with everything about India. So for those people, Talaiva is a reference to a very famous actor Rajnikant, who's probably the biggest Tamil star, and some people would argue that biggest Indian star as well. So, yeah, please continue.
So Mahendran sir is a father figure for me. If you look at it, and he is the master of scaling businesses. And he is a product. His product is a household product, which like cycle brand, like incense sticks. This is good night mosquito repellent. Look at the era when they innovated these products. Today we can talk about startups and innovation. These were eras when innovation was also not on the cards, right? And they brought in mosquito repellent into the Indian houses. Today they're a household name. And he is a chartered accountant by profession who moved to Mumbai. And then he had everything for him, but something that entrepreneurship kida, which you never know when it bites you. Then he put his profession, he partnered and he started with mosquito repellent. And then they were trying to go for an IPO when they were 60 crore plus. And then that's when Uday Kotak was managing this process. He said, instead of an IPO, if I give it to somebody, bring it somebody who can buy the business, are you willing to look at it? He said, as far as I get my money, it is okay. So the person who bought was Adi Godrej from the Indian Godrej family, one of the greatest business families again. So they said,
Well,
is
incidentally, I think they are the one of the oldest as well, right?
yeah, they are the oldest also. Like the Tatas, Godrej's are also one of the old business families in the country. So if you look at three business families, Tata's, Birlas, and Godrej's, you should consider all of them at the same time,
Oh,
because
one
they
more
have
is there. No, Wadia
trans
Group. Wadia is the oldest. Correct. Sorry,
Vadias. Yeah,
Wadias
Vadia
are the
is the
oldest.
Bombay Dyeing families. Yeah,
Right, they are the
they're
oldest.
one of them.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, yeah. So Mr. Godrej asked Mahendran sir to uh, he will buy on one condition if he continues to manage the business. So he sold it to Godrej at 120 crores, and then they sold the stake to Sara Lee, an international brand, the very next year at a 50% profit. Now at 149 crores, 160 crores, plus they reached to 1500 crores internationally. And then from there, they took it over and they scaled it up to 30,000 crores. So Mahendran sir, like Kumarvel gave me a statement saying if you are an entrepreneur, you need to be a PhD. So PhD means passion, hunger, and discipline. Now, Mahendran sir gave me a formula. If you want to be a successful entrepreneur, you need to be a maverick entrepreneur plus a professional entrepreneur. You can't be just a maverick entrepreneur, because If you're a maverick entrepreneur, you will not look at the data, you will not look into consensus, you will always follow what you think you are right. If you are going through a consensus mechanism, if you follow the process, you will avoid risks. And that is where J.R.D. Tata also, if you looked at it, he always said, I always believed in consensus, and I always took my decision based on my team's decision. And he learned this professional entrepreneurship when he was working along with partner Sara Lee. So he says you need to be 60% maverick entrepreneur and 40% professional entrepreneur. That is when you can have a greater ROI. Now, Mahendran is a serial entrepreneur from Goodnight. He started Great Lakes Management. He also partnered with the doctor to start Harvey Hospital. He
Well, I
started in
just was
textiles.
looking up to
Hmm.
confirm. It was Michael Eisner, the former CEO of Walt Disney, who said that micromanagement is underrated. So, incidentally, there was a lot of allegation about Michael Eisner as someone who does micromanagement, but he literally pulled Walt Disney out of which was falling into the abyss, into made it something really substantial and got it to be a very strong contender. Before, of course, Bob Iger took it to the very next level. But Michael Eisner remained a CEO for 20 years, and he said micromanagement is very important. So I don't know if Mr. Mahendran actually comes anywhere near to that, but I thought it may be relevant in this context.
No, I think it was not micromanagement, but he kind of groomed his entire management staff, the combination of being professional and maverick. So that you look at data, you look at facts, you look at risk factors, and then you take informed decisions before getting to any kind of a mess. So if you look at businesses which failed, like the Kingfisher Airlines, that's an example of a maverick business tycoon.
Well, by far, this is the largest story you have.
Zipline.
Zipline is the largest story
Yeah, because
in terms of number of pages.
not the pages, in terms of the size of the business itself. It's the shortest
No, in terms of
cycle,
number of pages, I was thinking whether this was the.
shortest,
Uh,
yeah.
so very interesting. In fact, I urge everybody to spend time on it. The range and breadth of things that Mr. Mahendra has done, and size and scope of things that he's done. It's phenomenal. You could probably have written almost one full book about him.
Yeah, he is a story where if
Is there
I
a
spend,
biography on him? Is there a biography of Mr. Mahendra? No?
not it, no, not it.
Okay.
He is
Very, very,
trying to do
very
something
interesting.
bigger. Say, I want to make him my mentor for my own startup whenever the next startup happens, because he is the scale guru for me, and I would love to have him as my advisor.
Wonderful. In fact, we'll come to that. So, who is the next story you want to talk about? This is uh,
See, I will touch
how.
about air ambulance story. Why we
Yeah.
put this along with the zipline part. Now, I will give you some data because I was into healthcare. And since ambulances was one of our core areas, you know what is the state of ambulances, the arrival timing, and why it is critical. Even today, you don't get ambulances on time, right? And air ambulances is the next level where people don't even know what it is. Okay. If you look at the number of helicopters, emergency medical responses in US, where they are only 30 crores, we are 140 crores plus. They have 900 helicopters to service.
Right.
We did not have even one. We did not even have one. Where the golden rule is for every 10 lakh, 1 million population, you should have one helicopter. So in that way, if you look at it, even if it is 1 crore, one helicopter, we should have 140 in the country. The size of the
That's
population.
only for the.
Just for the emergency responses. Now, people don't even understand the costing. People don't even understand the timing of it. because you're moving patients and organs. When you're moving patients, it is a different protocol. When you're moving organs, it's a very stringent protocol because the life of every organ is counted in minutes in the reverse order. So
Right.
they don't talk about hours, they talk about minutes. So every minute lost is very, very precious. And it hap- happens in a military precision,
This is
like a
Bangalore based,
military
right?
operation.
These
Yeah, this
air
is
ambulance
Bangalore based.
company.
Yeah, Bangalore based. Yes. So it's run by a woman entrepreneur doctor and Rahul Singh was one of the counterparts. And that's a very interesting story because the book also covers women entrepreneurs. It was just not the male entrepreneurs. When I said I got everything in my lap in the first book itself, I got
Right.
Kumar Wale's wife as a woman entrepreneur, Veena ma'am, and I got Dr. Shalini as a woman entrepreneur.
Right.
Now, Shalini's role when she is commanding the aircraft, it is generally the pilot who commands the entire operations. In an air ambulance, it is the doctor who calls the shots.
Hmm.
And a woman working amongst the 99% of males who are working, and they have to listen to her in a war zone, in a flood, in an avalanche, or an emergency. You can see the role what she is playing. It's an incredible story for women to get inspired to get into entrepreneurship. When she can do that, you can do anything lesser than
Correct.
that, which you just step out of your comfort zone and you can start your own enterprise.
Fantastic.
And that is the reason why we covered. And India needs at least 50 to 60 air ambulances.
Yeah, it's no doubt on that. I think we just need a lot of things are coming up, though. Being positive
And
about it,
no
but
state, see, even if the state budget, we don't hear about air ambulances. No state budget even announces that. 30 states announce their budget, two helicopters for the largest state, two, three. India will easily have 50 helicopters. And let's look at HAL now manufacturing in Bangalore in Tumkur somewhere. They've got 600 acres of land. The first order, even if they manufacture helicopters for the country for the medical emergencies, you have 50 orders for the domestic consumption only.
right. What's the Nimish Soni story?
Nimish was my CEO, ex-CEO, and then I kind of found him always a person who could convince anybody, be it any situation of the organization. And I used to, I was a very junior when you compare to Nimish in the organization. I had started my career with his company. How I got closer to him was we used to play cricket for the team. So he was the opening batsman. I was a bowler. So somewhere we traveled a journey in all the cricket grounds in Bangalore. And then our relationship stayed on. What thing I found with him is uh, he also started his enterprise after the .com issue, right? That's when he started during the .com bubble. He kind of went for a lot of businesses. Every time he went, he came empty-handed. With a person who had so much of conviction to convince anybody, he was not able to convert at the initial stages. But his investors believed in him that this man has got something. For 18 months, they did not ask a question. And he got his first business client after 18 months, which means this man had something in him to hold his employees for 18 months, first team of employees, to hold his investors for 18 months and paying salaries. And then he transformed his own journey. He started his back office services, and then he sold it to multiple stakeholders. He exited, and then he started a healthcare where he failed also. It was just not the success. He failed also. Then he exited. Now he started with another wealth management company for which is managing the wealth management for the billionaires, the top of the top billionaires in the world, and some of them in the top 10 are his clients. So you can consider whom he is in connect with. So the whole family offices, the way it was managed was on multiple Excel sheets, multiple data points. And it was very complex for these guys to see what is happening in the family, because who's trading, who is buying, selling. It was very, very difficult. And some of these things need approval, instant approval, right? So they built a application where everything gets synchronized, and the founders, the owners have everything on their app at a single stroke, and
Right.
they could monitor the entire family business, family office operations. It is a very different segment. Private equity probably at the highest level, and managing
Fantastic.
that and penetrating that kind of client is no joke, actually.
So, well, for all the listeners and audience, there are a few more stories, and also, in fact, there's a segment where for there are a few ready-made tools and tips for entrepreneurs from their point of running. So that is an add-on to the 12 stories. 12 entrepreneur stories are here. Along with it, there are some three chapters, if you will, which gives you a lot of help in how you could structure and put better process in your organization. So you should seriously look it up. Could you just hold it as well, Deepak? So the link is there below. Do look it up. And in fact, whatever Deepak was sharing, whatever we were talking about is just the cream of the tip of the mountain. So there is a whole mountain to be discovered. Each of their stories are brilliant, and also it's not very heavy reading. It's very light reading, and though the stories have so much to give, it doesn't make you give you a heavy feeling. It's very energizing as well. So good read. So enjoy reading. And Deepak, what are you busy with lately? What are you doing these days?
Before that, I'll just complete the one thing, the advisory which we got it. Because one question you asked, there were so many books in the market, and why this one? See, when you looked at startup books, they only talk about how to start and the legal formalities, incorporation, and all those stuff, right? Nobody talks about the investment cycle itself. That is why I interviewed an investment banker, how to become funding ready. And most of them, if you look at it, do not go into the details of a term sheet. Now, what happens
Mm-hmm.
is when the founders go for a pitching, they get excited that they got an investor, but the whole thing is in the term sheet because it is one sided. And for startups who want to go for funding, I would urge them to do their homework on the term sheet clauses. This book gives you a good idea of what are those clauses, but then after this, you can expand your knowledge and be prepared where all you can negotiate and what is that you're getting from the investor side, so that your business model, your equity, everything can be negotiated if you're prepared. If you are unprepared, sometimes the investor also will say this term sheet is for 24 hours, 72 hours. All those pressure tactics you can negotiate, and then you can get a better deal. Saving your large portion of equity is the key for raising any funds. If you liquidate too much, you are in trouble because the next fund will not come. And
Absolutely. I think it's a
there is no motivation for you if you liquidate
correct.
50-60% of it.
Correct. I
So
think it's
there
a
has to
very,
be.
very
Yeah.
useful chapter. In fact, all the other two as well, it's very useful, very handy for entrepreneurs to look at. I think it's a good mix. It's very apt to go with.
So what I'm busy with, so when I had ran through the whole healthcare ecosystem, and then we had launched an app which was an online doctors app, which was probably one of the brilliant applications in the country, which we had put in a lot of effort. Probably in the top five, you can consider when we launched it. Unfortunately, what happened is when we launched in Feb 2020, March 2020, COVID came in, and then we could not go to the market because marketing was not possible. All the clinics were shut down, hospitals were not giving entry, and we had to shut down the shop. But I kind of took another stab in 2021 to bring it back because I had spent 3.5, 4 years in this whole startup. And I had built a good ecosystem. All the doctors who saw the application, they were jaw dropping. Wow. And then I had my belief that I could be able to raise it. And that is when I went into apply for Shark Tanks. I went for the 2 rounds. I got shortlisted. Third round is where things did not work for us. And that's when my co-founders were also exiting. Then I did not want to be setting up another new team because it is a lot of effort. Then I was just wondering what next. And that is when blockchain came into my lab. And for me, in my healthcare application, the journey was artificial intelligence, data analytics, and blockchain. So since my roadmap was clear, what I wanted, then I thought, let me step into blockchain because it was anyway part of my journey. If not today, tomorrow, I was anyway starting it. Then I went into blockchain. The moment I understood the whole concept, I said, this is the next big thing. And I just blindly followed it. And today I've been able to understand blockchain from an enterprise side, the use cases side, and I can speak on any of those use cases. I can speak about architecture. I do training on consulting in blockchain. So it's a very interesting space, and artificial intelligence is the next thing which is close to my heart because it's the next big thing which everybody is talking about. Now, after ChatGPT, it has become the next hot selling topic. And then I am now trying to push adoption in the country, be it education, be it agriculture, be it industry, manufacturing, legal, real estate. I am trying to reach out to companies which needs an understanding how this works and why it is important for them to start early. Because if you give up this cycle of innovation and adoption, you will be giving into the hands of the larger outside corporates, which will probably dominate.
Totally.
And whether it's a franchisee, family business, MSME, it does not matter. You have ways to adopt to blockchain. You have ways to form a consortium. If you want to beat the bigger players, smaller players become a consortium, beat the bigger players. It is accessible. People think it is very expensive. It is going to take time. It is not expensive if you use blockchain as a platform.
I think more than the cost, unfortunately, there are a lot of people who are not doing it right.
Yes.
And because of that, it is getting that NFT, right? The biggest, very popular players, right? At least in the film industry, who let's not take any names, but those who know obviously know. So they announced their NFTs, and they expected because of the association of these big names, NFT should monetize.
No,
Right?
I
They
think, see,
don't have any
what
monetization model in it, and they just about. It's like I publish, I put my NFT on a platform, and I should start getting money for it.
No, I think this is where I consult and when I talk to people, they have to have patience first. Now there are two things. Now blockchain is misunderstood because every time when you talk blockchain, they talk about cryptocurrency. This is the standard
That's
understanding.
another thing. Yeah.
And the crypto, whatever is happening, the windfall,
No.
that's a different story. When it comes to NFT is not like putting on social media, it will work. It is not the Facebook, Twitter, it will bring you client. You have to first of all understand what you're selling on the marketplace, how rare it is. You have to build a story and you have to build a community of people who are going to come and buy. If you do not strategize this, any celebrity on the planet cannot sell your NFT or their own NFTs cannot be stored. You have to build a
Exactly.
store.
Even their own and celebrities
Yes.
NFTs are also not
Yeah.
selling. See, that's the very.
So I am still trying to convince people who are in art, who are in movie industry, especially the media people, OTT media, any regional media.
What about enterprises? In your experience, how are enterprises looking at adopting to blockchain?
Enterprises this
I
year,
think that's the best use case, easy to go with, right?
but still they are not still they're still hesitant to start. So, but I think some of the people have started realizing that there will be a global competition, and if they are not prepared, they'll be wiped out. See, there will be either the Kodaks or Nokias. So let me be very frank, you and I know the story now. If all the Indian companies with all the digitization which is happening, if we don't adopt these two technologies, AI and blockchain, we will be in a difficult spot. And this year has to be the year of these two technologies. Now, from an enterprise level, I got somebody from a textile industry. They told me that, Deepak, we want to do something on blockchain. We do something on cotton and natural dyes, which we are exporting to the extent of 40,000 crores is a market for them as an export. And if they do not show traceability of natural dyes or the cotton origin of the cotton, the buyers at the other end, today it's all about ESG, climate and ESG.
Correct.
And the buyers also want to use products which are environmental friendly, right? These guys will lose the market. And this is one story which I'm just narrating because people have started understanding. Now, just understanding is not important. Now you should take action to implement it. Now,
No, but that's a cycle. I think more we keep talking, and Deepak is a speaker in a whole lot of blockchain forums. So I know, I think that is another area where we keep coming across and meeting. So I think it takes some more time before it gets into the full stream
no, I think,
adoption.
see, people need to understand this is one technology which will anyway take time for you to learn. Just to understand how this works, it will take you 6 to 9 months, then to POC, then to production. So this 18 to 24 months is your learning cycle. So any time, any month you shift your learning, you're shifting 2 months of your learning and implementation also. So you don't have time actually if you look at it. So you should start now to at least understand the use case, where it is going to, and
or you will miss the bus if you don't get on.
Yes. So I think if this year major of these companies, whatever segment they are in India, if they don't budget it and if they don't start, I think they're going to miss. I think we were speaking to some banker in the UAE. UAE is one of the fastest adopters of blockchain. You know that, right? So 50% of the projects are supposed to be on blockchain.
And they've even set up a $10 billion budget for funding, right?
The central
1 billion or 10?
10 billion.
10
1
billion
is nothing for them. The central bank has told all the bankers to budget for blockchain. What in blockchain, they don't know, but they've said keep a budget for blockchain. So this is something now every entrepreneur, whatever scale you are, you should start budgeting for two things: artificial intelligence and blockchain, and IoT if you are thinking, if you are manufacturing or anything. 3 key technologies with ChatGPT coming in. The fourth one, you should now look at how to use these tools for your business. And this is
wonderful. With that, we also going to have all the social handles of Deepak right below. Please do reach out. Do follow. He keeps sharing a lot of good information from across the world. At least I follow on LinkedIn. We are connected, right? And you're also on Twitter.
Twitter, all the platforms. Facebook.
Okay. So
but
we'll
lastly on Twitter, LinkedIn. Yeah.
So all the handles also. So we'll share right below. So please follow and get in touch with Deepak. And if you have something more to ask him, please feel free to ask Deepak. Deepak, is there anything you want to say before we close?
I think now I am seriously focusing on tokenomics, but which you are also looking at part of it. My next book will be on tokenomics before Dhool Dhoop Dhakka 2 series.
Wonderful.
Because that is something which I want people to understand.
Absolutely, I think that will be a very good effort.
Companies. Everybody has done
well, Deepak, in my opinion, I think people who are in the blockchain business need to understand tokenomics. Then the businesses, it becomes a lot easy to understand, because so far, whatever that's happening, it's mostly cut and paste that is happening, since most people in the blockchain are also approaching mostly on the utility tokens.
Yes.
So tokenomics becomes far more important when we get down to security tokens. And that is the future anyway. So I think it's fantastic. So please do that and do that soon.
Yeah, I've started actually. I've started experimenting on white papers now. And after this, my cutoff before the end of September, I should finish off.
Fantastic.
By end of this year, for sure.
Perfect. We really need that. And I think for that, you don't really have to worry about audience having to be businesses. I think that first level setup audience have to be people who are already in blockchain.
Yes.
If they understand blockchain, service providers understand blockchain, technology people understand it, it becomes that much more easier for people who adopt technologies.
The other two things which I am doing as a social venture, I'm trying to help farmers in doubling their farming income. I'm attached to plant pathologist who's done a wonderful job. He's
If you
identified
if
the
you have
solution.
any links that can be shared,
Yeah.
let's have it shared to with our audience
Yeah.
in the below this
Yeah.
podcast.
That is one. And now I'm seriously focusing on climate, carbon trading. So these are the areas which I'm going to be
I think it's
hands-on
a
with.
great timing because carbon trading is
Yeah.
being legalized here in India. So I think
Yes.
the timing is just perfect.
Yeah. So these are some things I think which I want to drive this whole of next year, this year and next year.
Wish you the very best, Deepak, and we'll also look forward to collaborating with you. Let's see what all we can work together on.
Yeah,
And
sure.
all those who are interested in talking to Deepak on any of these things Deepak is working with, please reach him with this link given below.
Thank you so much. It's pleasure
Thank you,
meeting you. Nice talking and sharing my experiences.
always. Thank you, Deepak. Thank you for making time. And please uh, uh, look up all the links shared below and reach out to Deepak. Consider, if you don't mind, can you hold up the book, Dhool Dhoop Dhakka? So do consider picking it up. Great stories. And each story has some really good takeaway, particularly if you're an entrepreneur or if you are planning to become an entrepreneur. And thank you, Deepak, for doing this effort, putting this effort, and look forward to more coming out of you. And if you guys like it, please share it and come back soon for the next FutureFast episode.
Yeah,
Till
thank
then,
you so much.
enjoy the ride. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.